Hi everyone, Vicky Verley here. I did a video a while back about all the characters in The Sopranos, and a lot of you seem to really like that. And like a lot of people, I've been obsessed with the Game of Thrones. So I decided I was going to go through and do an astrological profile of what I think the sun signs might be of some of the characters. I mean, there's so many characters. I'm not going to be able to cover every single character in this video. And also, I have not read the books. I may go read the books at some point, but these are just based on their portrayal in the TV series on HBO, the Game of Thrones. So some of you may have read the books, and maybe there's other character traits that were more in depth, gone into in the books, and not in the TV series. And I'm open to anybody's comments. If you disagree, and you have another idea, cool, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Or even if there's characters that I've left out that you have an idea on what they might be, I would love to hear about that as well. I like to start out with the people of the North, because that's how they're introduced to us in the series. They start with the Winterfell. So we're going to start with the people of the North, with Ned Stark himself. Now, he was hard to pin down. They actually were all pretty hard to pin down once I started doing it, because they all have the Leo pride, and they all have the vengefulness of a negative Scorpio, but they can't all be Leos and Scorpios. So I had to branch out a little bit from there. But Ned Stark, after long deliberation, I'm going to say that I think, as depicted in the series, that Ned Stark would be a Libra. I did this because he's fair and just. He really wants peace. He wants to stay out of the wars, and even though he had to behead somebody, he was fair and just. And when he was in King's Landing, he tried to, uphold the law like it should have been upheld. He had a lot of the sense of justice, and that reminds me of Libra and fairness. So I would say Ned Stark is a Libra. The next person I want to take a look at from the North is Ned's wife, Catelyn Stark. It was hard with the Tullys, which is Catelyn's clan, because they're known for their red hair, and Sansa with their red hair. So it was hard not to make them fire. And I almost made her a Leo, but I finally settled on her being a Cancer. She's so devoted to her children, which Leos are too, but she's the ultimate mother. She stays up all night with Bran and makes her talismans to protect her children, even goes off to war with her children. But ultimately, her emotions led her to free Jaime Lannister. So she leads with her emotions. So that, to me, says the ultimate mother, Cancerian. Next person in line in the Stark clan is the eldest son, Robb. I felt that Robb was an Aquarius because he used his mind in battle, and he was very forward-thinking. He wasn't. He was forging a new way and going about things in the old way and standing up to the old paradigm. And his strategies in war and his intelligence make me think that Robb is probably an Aquarius. Next of the Stark children is the eldest daughter, Sansa. I feel like Sansa is a Virgo. She's so dutiful, and she's suffered and so devoted to family, and she's gone through so much, and she just is a brave trooper and sticks through it all, just like Virgos. The other thing is because she's crafty. She makes her dresses, and she does her needlepoint and embroidery, and a lot of Virgos are very crafty like that. They like to do crafts, especially needlepoint and sewing and things like that. For all those reasons, I would say that Sansa is probably a Virgo. The next of the Stark children is Arya. I would say Arya is definitely a Sagittarius because she's a tomboy. She is a seeker. She's seeking higher spiritual knowledge. And she also is a traveler, which is another thing that is definitely Sagittarius, is they're the travelers. So without a doubt, I would say Arya is a Sagittarius. Then this brings us to Bran Stark. I would say that Bran is a Pisces because he's so mystical. He's a spiritual seeker. He's an old soul, you can tell. And also he took on a heavy karma in this life, which often Pisces will do by being, falling from the roof and everything early in life. So that's very much a Pisces, heavy karmic cycle that he's in, and also his mysticalness. So I would say that Bran, without a doubt, is a Pisces. Another Northerner and a man of the Night's Watch who was raised with the Starks is the character Jon Snow. I would say that Jon Snow is definitely a Virgo because of his hard work ethic, his sacrifice, his self-control, and his self-control over his sexuality in particular, and his he's so devoted and so self-effacing. That's definitely all qualities that a Virgo would have. So I would say that Jon Snow is a Virgo. Another character who was raised in the North under the Stark clan is Theon Greyjoy, or also known as Reek. I like to call him Reek the Freak. I would say that Theon is definitely an Aries. You know, when before everything happened to him, he was so cocky and self-serving, and these women, the way he treated women was very disrespectful, and he just charged in without thinking. Also, when he went to go overtake the North, Winterfell, he just charged in. That's definitely an Aries trait. So I would say without a doubt that Theon is definitely an Aries. So finishing up in the North, we're now going to move down to King's Landing and start with the king at the onset of the series, who was Robert Baratheon. I would say that Robert was definitely a Taurus. You know, it's the negative side of the Taurus. It's the gluttony, it's the wine, the food, the women, the laziness. Those are then all can be characteristics on the negative side of Taurus. So I would say without a doubt that Robert is definitely a Taurus. The next character we're going to look at is the Queen Bee herself, Cersei Lannister. I would say that Cersei is definitely a Scorpio, and she displays the dark side of the Scorpio energy. She's vengeful, manipulative. Also the fact that she was having sex with her brother, that's all in the realm of the Scorpio nature and sexuality and this dark side that she displays so well. So I would say definitely Cersei is a Scorpio. Now let's take a look at Cersei's twin brother and lover, Jaime Lannister. I would say that Jaime is a Leo. I finally settled on a Leo with him. He was loved the glory and the spotlight, and he was winner of all the tournaments and everything, and the glory in battle, and he's very loyal to his family, but also again with the pridefulness and I'm better than you. That's a negative trait of the Leo thing, looking down on others. So mainly for, though, his displays of glory in battle and on the tournaments and everything, I would say that Jaime is probably going to be a Leo. Now on to Tyrion Lannister, who is the youngest brother of the Lannisters. I went round and round with him too. I was he's definitely an air sign, I thought, because he's so mental and he's so such a reader. And I was almost going to say Gemini, but I changed my mind and I went with Libra. Because of the books. He's so well read and so into the books. Also, he can be a bit of a glutton himself there. And that sometimes Libras, they have that nickname, Lazy Libra, or it's ruled by Venus, as Taurus is. And the downside of that is the gluttony, the wine women and overdoing it and everything. So I think that I'm going to settle on Tyrion. I think that Tyrion's going to be a Libra. Now let's take a look at Joffrey, who is a Baratheon by name, but actually was the offspring of Jaime and Cerci. I would say that Joffrey is definitely an Aries, the negative side of Aries again, because he's such a brat. He's very bratty, and he's very self-serving. He's very self-serving, and it's all about him. So I would say that he has that sadistic side, which can also be the Scorpio, negative Scorpio energy. But I think in Joffrey's case, I would say that he's definitely an Aries. He's not that far evolved. It's very much in the here and now, and it's me and mine. So I'm going to say that Joffrey is definitely an Aries. Finally, the last of the Lannisters is the granddaddy of them all, and that's Tywin, who was the father of Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion. I went round and round with him too, but I think I'm going to settle on that he's a Capricorn because he's so stern and so strict, and he likes power. He likes to be at the top of the heap. The other thing is Capricorn men, sometimes they don't know how to show their emotions, and it can be a little bit on the cold side, but nevertheless, they usually do care for their children. I know he's done some pretty dastardly things, but I settled on that I'm going to go with Capricorn for Tywin. The next character I want to look at is not a Lannister, but he is from King's Landing as we start the story out, and that's Mr. Peter Baelish. I went round and round with him too. The obvious choice would be Scorpio because he runs the brothel and there's the sex thing in there. But I decided on him that I think that Peter is a Gemini. because he's so into the mental sparring, and he's such a trickster, and he just has that, he's so quick-witted, he's got the quick comebacks all the time. Also, sometimes Geminis can talk out both sides of their mouth, so to speak, and I think that that's definitely a trait that Peter Baelish has in spades. So I'm going to go with Gemini for Peter Baelish. The final character we're going to take a look at today is Daenerys Targaryen. I went round and round with her too. I was Virgo, Capricorn, but I finally landed on Scorpio because, well, number one, because that dragon so much looks like a scorpion. I mean, there's that, but she does have the positive side of Scorpios. You know, she's a strong woman. She's a good ruler, you know, as opposed to the Scorpio energy that Cerci brings forth. Also, when you watch her, she's cool as a cucumber. When they dumped the metal on her brother's head and he was standing there screaming, you know, that's a Scorpio. Wouldn't flinch an inch, you know. Or when she had threw the guy into the dragons and they burned him and ripped him up, you know, she was just cool as a cucumber. So that's what made me settle on her being the Scorpio. So I'm going to say that Daenerys is definitely a Scorpio. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my little spiel on this. And if you watch The Sopranos, you may want to check that one out. And I may do some in the future. As I said in the beginning, if you agree or disagree, or if there's characters that I left out, feel free to leave it all in the comments. I love hearing your take on everything as well. Okay, remember that you are love and beauty incarnate, and I'll speak to you soon.